So we're going to be appealing this scam. We're going to be appealing it on many different things. He wouldn't allow us to have witnesses. He wouldn't allow us to talk. He wouldn't allow us to do anything. The judge was a tyrant. So we will continue.
Former President Trump will be appealing yesterday's verdict, as you just heard. Donald Trump, of course, becoming the first sitting or former president to be convicted of a felony. And in normal times, that might mean the end of his political ambitions. But never underestimate, I should say, the power of Donald Trump. In fact, many of his biggest supporters have already said that this verdict will not impact their support. We're joined by political analyst Tom Serafin, and what a day yesterday was, including this morning, Donald Trump holding a news conference and doubling down. No surprise. What's your reaction to this morning's news conference?
Well, he's on the offense defensively, and he has to do that. The election is just a few months away. So in most polls, he is leading in the states that matter. In fact, if you take a look at the electoral count today, 226 for Biden, 312 for Donald Trump. So in those particular states like Georgia, North Carolina, you got Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, then you go out to Nevada and Arizona. He's ahead, but in the margin of error. So this kind of thing that happened yesterday in court, you'll see in the next couple of weeks, if the polls move, you'll see what kind of position you got yourself in. Right now, he's within a point. Joe Biden's within a point of him nationally in the national poll, but it's those swing states that really matter. So we'll see. Most of his supporters say in the polling data that they're going to stick with him. It's that independent vote, the middle. That's where you're going to lose votes. We'll see how much he loses on that side. They think 3%. 3% still puts him, in the lead in those particular states, but it's not enough nationally.
It's interesting, because let's talk about that, because there have been some polls that were taken before the conviction that asked people, if Donald Trump is convicted, will that impact your vote, whether you vote for him or not? And this morning, during the Trump news conference, he said that since last night, his campaign has received $39 million from small money donors, $20, $40, $50. Does that surprise you? $39 million.
No, it's because today you can do that on the internet, but you have to be plugged in everywhere. It shows the reach of Donald Trump, one of the most famous people and brands in the world, and he got convicted in a New York courtroom. New York and California have always been the states persecuting the middle of the country. That's what the middle of the country thinks. They talk about flyover states. So, I mean, he's got a lot of people that are very, very, very rabid for him. What Joe Biden doesn't have, he doesn't have that. You don't see big crowds where he shows up. He doesn't have that enthusiastic voter. He's got the numbers, but he doesn't have the enthusiasm. Donald Trump has that enthusiasm, but he needs a few more numbers. I'm surprised that the number is very high. In fact, it crashed, yet last night, the website, with all the people going on it. So this is not going to hurt him with his loyal followers. It's just going to increase that enthusiasm.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because the president has pretty much been silent since this trial has been taking place, and now the conviction has happened. Is that smart? Should he continue to do that, or do you think we are now going to hear from him referencing this? No,
you'll hear from everybody around him referencing this, but now he has to be presidential. He's bigger than all this. What's going to be interesting is that the first debate is the 27th of June, and then the sentencing is July 11th. So that period of time, what happens between June 27th and July 11th is going to be interesting, because what happens at that debate? Is the president going to win that debate, or is Donald Trump going to have the demeanor to be successful in that debate? We don't know, but it's, if Donald Trump slays in that debate and just comes out way up on top, are they going to be lenient in taking him or not taking him off the campaign trail on July 11th? I mean, there's a lot of things in play right here. One of my favorite quotes from Aristotle, and I wrote it down on my way over here.
Okay, I want to hear it.
At his best, man is the noblest of all animals, but separated from law and justice, he is the worst.
That's a good quote.
It is. So we need law and justice. The jury spoke yesterday, jury of 12 people. They were given the instructions by the judge. They heard what they heard, and that's the way it is. Now, on appeal, I certainly, after reading everything, I think certainly on appeal that he's going to have a lot of opportunity there, depending on the appellate court level, the Supreme Court level, to make a case for himself, and I think successfully. But right now, the game is he's convicted. all right? And that's the way it works. Law and justice, you have to live by that order. Our society is dependent on it. I hope nobody goes over the top on this thing, because we need the understanding of law and justice. We need to abide by the law.
That's the scary thing in such a divisive country that we live in right now. Tom Serafin, always a pleasure to have you.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for being here.